Ethan Miller was the kind of man everyone described as responsible, organized, and ambitious. His friends admired his work ethic, his colleagues saw him as the guy who always had a plan. But what nobody realized was that Ethan's obsession with control, his need to make everything perfect, was quietly tearing apart the most important part of his life, his marriage. He had married Claire Reynolds 5 years ago. Claire was everything he wasn't: spontaneous, creative, and warm-hearted. She loved painting, impromptu road trips, and quiet evenings filled with laughter. When they met, Ethan admired that free spirit. It was like she breathed life into his structured world. But as time went on, what once felt refreshing began to make him anxious. He wanted order, she wanted freedom. At first, it was small things. Ethan would rearrange the living room after Claire decorated it, insisting it looked more balanced, his way. He'd double-check the grocery list she wrote or edit her text messages before she sent them. He called it helping. She called it controlling. One morning, Claire woke up early to surprise Ethan with breakfast before work. Pancakes, fresh fruit, coffee, the works. But when Ethan came downstairs, he frowned. "You used too much syrup," he said, looking at the stack. "And the coffee's a little strong." The smile faded from her face. She said quietly, "Maybe you can make it next time." He didn't mean to hurt her. He just wanted everything right. But that day set a tone, one he never noticed until it was too late. Over time, their conversations became more instructions than discussions. He'd tell her how to drive, how to fold laundry, even how to talk to his family. She grew quieter, retreating into herself. Then came the big argument, the one that started over something trivial. Claire had forgotten to pay a bill because she spent the day helping a friend move. Ethan found the notice in the mail and snapped. "I told you to set reminders." He shouted. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling. "It just slipped my mind." "That's exactly the problem. You're too distracted all the time." And before he could stop himself, he said words he could never take back. "Maybe if you cared half as much as I do, things wouldn't fall apart." She stared at him, eyes full of tears. "Ethan, do you even hear yourself anymore?" He looked away, silent. That night, she slept on the couch. The next morning, she packed a small bag. "I need space," she said softly. "You don't listen to me. You don't trust me to make any decision. I feel like I'm disappearing." He tried to stop her, but her eyes told him it was too late. "I love you, Ethan. But love can't breathe under control." For the first time, his world, the one he thought was perfectly ordered, fell apart. Days turned into weeks. He kept texting her, asking her to come back, promising to change. She replied politely but never promised anything. He began therapy, realizing his need for control came from his childhood, an unpredictable home where mistakes were punished harshly. Controlling his surroundings had been his way of feeling safe. But that same habit now made the woman he loved feel unsafe. Months later, Ethan wrote her a letter. Not to convince her to return, but to thank her for teaching him something he hadn't understood before. He wrote, "Greater than, I used to think love was about protecting someone from mistakes. Now I know it's about standing beside them while they make their own. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I'll spend the rest of my life learning how to." When Claire received the letter, she cried. She met him at a park a week later. He was nervous, standing by the old oak tree where they once had their first picnic. "Ethan," she said softly, "I read your letter. I can see you've changed." "I had to," he said, "because losing you made me see who I was." They talked for hours, laughed even, but when he asked if she'd consider coming home, she hesitated. "I think we both need more time," she said kindly. "Maybe one day, but for now, I'm still finding myself too." It broke his heart, but he understood. For the first time, he didn't beg or try to convince her. He simply nodded and said, "Take all the time you need." As she walked away, he realized that love wasn't about holding on, it was about letting go with grace. Months passed. Ethan changed in small ways. He started volunteering, met new people, and even smiled again. Sometimes, he'd walk by the park where they last spoke, remembering her words. One spring morning, he received a letter from Claire. It wasn't long, just a simple note that said, "Greater than, I hope you're still finding peace. I am too, thank you for letting me breathe again." Ethan smiled. He didn't know if they'd ever find their way back to each other, but he was at peace knowing she was happy. And maybe, that was the lesson he had to learn all along, that love isn't about control or perfection. It's about trust, patience, and the freedom to be imperfect together.